Hello friends. Today we are going to learn the module on digital rights management part 1. In this module we will be discussing basics of the digital rights management, functional architecture of DRM, information architecture of DRM and legal issues and IPR issues which are associated with digital rights management. Well, first let's talk about digital content. Digital content which can be distributed via electronic media and it can be accessed over tablets, laptop, PCs, desktop or any handheld devices. Textual content may be anything, either it may be text, video, audio, multimedia or combination of any of above. Now, voluminous generation and consumption of digital content has raised several issues for the producer of the digital content, generator of the digital content, and consumer of digital content. The right and responsibility of the consumer should be also taken care. The current set of rules governing the digital content is also under the question. These issues are addressed by digital rights. Digital rights management is a general term used to describe the set of technologies which intends to simplify the practice of preventing inappropriate use of digital content. This set of technologies are being used by publishers, copyright holders, individuals and hardware manufacturers with an intention to control use of digital content and devices to protect it from unintended use. The intention of first generation DRM software is to control copying, whereas the second generation of DRM scheme extends the previous one to control viewing, copying, printing, and altering. Basically, it is copy protection, prevention, and control. DRM encompasses the description, layering, analysis, valuation, trading, and monitoring of the rights over individual or organization's asset, both in physical and digital form, and of tangible and intangible values. DRM covers digital management of rights, being them rights in a physical manifestation of the work, for example a book, or being them right in digital manifestation of work, being an e-book. The current methods of managing, trading, and protecting such assets are inefficient, proprietary, or else often require the information to be wrapped or embedded into a physical format. Let us discuss framework for this. The overall DRM framework, which can be used for implementing digital rights enabled system, can be modeled in three areas, that is intellectual property asset creation and capture, intellectual property asset management, and intellectual property asset usage. The asset creation and capture is the management of the content creation so that it can be easily dealt. This includes assertion of rights when the content is first created or reused or extended by various content creators and providers. Intellectual property asset management is the management of facilitating the trade of the content. It includes acquisition of content from creators into an asset management system. The trading system needs to manage the descriptive metadata and the rights metadata. Whereas IP asset usage is management of usage of content once it has been traded. This includes supporting constants over traded content in specific access devices or the software. Here is the schematic which shows a functional architecture of the DRM. We will discuss each component in details. The first one is IP asset creation. IP asset creation deals with rights validation, rights workflow, and rights creation. Right validation is for assurance of the fact that the content being created from existing content includes the rights to do so. Whereas right workflow allows the content to be processed through a series of workflow steps for review or approval of right. The right creation deals to allow rights to be assigned to new content such as specification of right owners and applicable usage permission. Slide 9. The IP Asset Management module provides functionality for repository functions and trading functions. Repository functions enables the access or retrieval of the content in potentially distributed databases and access and retrieval of metadata. This metadata covers parties' right and description of work as described in information architecture of the DRM, whereas trading function enables the allocation of the license to the parties who have traded agreements for rights over the content, including payments from licensee to right holders. In some cases, the content may need to go through fulfillment operations to satisfy the license agreement. For example, the content may be encrypted or protected or packaged for a particular type of usage environment. The IP Asset Usage module provides functionalities for permission management as well as tracking management. Permission management enables the usage environment to comply the rights associated with the content. For example, if the user only has a right to view the document, then printing will not be allowed. Tracking management is to enable the monitoring of the usage of content where such tracking is part of agreed to the license condition. Like a user may have license to view a content only 5 times. This module may also need to incorporate with the trading system to track usage or record the transaction if there is a payment due for each usage. The functional architecture is only part of solution to the challenges of the DRM and just provides a framework. The actual rights management is more complex. For simpler implementation, DRM system must support the most flexible information model possible to provide for this complex and layered relationship. The information architecture of DRM provides these features. The information architecture deals with how the entities are modeled in overall DRM framework and their relationship. The main issue that requires addressing in development of the DRM information model may include modeling of the entities, identifying and describing the entities, and expressing the right statements. The basic principle of modeling the entity is to clearly separate and identify the 3 core entities: users, content, and rights, as shown in this schematic. The users can be any type of users, from a right holder to end consumer. The content is any type of content at any level of aggregation. The right entity is the expression of the permission, constraint, and obligations between the user and content. The primary reason of this model is to provide greater flexibility when assigning rights to any combination or layering of users and contents. In information architecture, the content itself also needs to be modeled. The key principle in modeling of content is its multiple layers, which contains its evaluation and development from various intellectual stages. Such a model will enable explicit attribution of rights information. The model allows content to be identified at work, expression, and manifestation and item layers. At each of these layers, different rights and right holders may need to be supported as shown. The layers of content defined as work, which is a distinct intellectual creation, and the expression, the intellectual realization of work, which reflects scholarly or creative content. On other hand, other layers of content defined as manifestation, which is a digital embodiment of expression of work, and a item, which is a single exemplar instantiation of a manifestation which reflects physical or digital form. For content modeling, we'll take an example. Let us consider the stories of my experiment with truth. It is an autobiography of Mohandas K. Gandhi, covering his life from early childhood through to 1921. It was written in weekly installment and published in his journal Navjivan for 1925 to 1929. Its English translation also appeared in installments in the other journal, Young India. Now, for this book, the expression of work can be the original text by Mohandas K. Gandhi, original text in Gujarati, the English translation of original text, and translator is Mahadev Desai. Again, the manifestation of English translation expression can be the hardcover book published by Navjivan Publishing House, Ahmedabad in 1948, the paperback published by Beacon Press in 1993. The item of book manifestation can be a physical hardcover book purchased from Books India retail store, a digital book or a Kindle version purchased from Amazon INC online store. All the entities needs to be identified and described. This identification should be accomplished via open and standard mechanisms for each entity in the model. Both the entities and associated metadata records about the entities must be identifiable. Open standards such as Universal Resource Identifiers (URI), Digital Object Identifiers (DOI), and the emerging ISO, that is International Standard Textual Work Code (ISTC), are typical schemes useful for rights identification. Content should be described using the most appropriate metadata standard for that genre. An additional and important part of the rights model is to articulate the role of that the user has undertaken with respect to the content. The right entity allows expression to be made, permissions that are allowed, constraints, obligations, and any other right-related information about user and content. As shown in schematic, right expression should consist of the permissions, i.e. the usage permissions, what you are allowed to do so, the constraint, that are restrictions on the permissions, obligations, what you have to do or provide or accept, and the right holders, who is entitled to what. Now we will talk about the legal aspects associated with DRM. Since the pertinent laws and lawmaking vary from country to country, it is not possible to give insight to each and every legal aspect of the DRM. However, DRM systems have received some international backing by implementation of the 1996 WIPO Copyright Treaty, that is WCT. The Article 11 of the treaty requires nations to party the treaties to enact the laws against DRM circumvention. The WCT has been implemented in most member states of the World Intellectual Property Organization. The American implementation is Digital Millennium Copyright Act (DMCA), whereas in Europe, the treaty has been implemented by 2001 European Directive on Copyright, which requires member states of European Union to implement legal protection for technological prevention measures. In 2006, French Parliament adopted such legislation as part of controversial DAD-VSI law, but added that the protected DRM technique should be made interoperable. In India, the Indian Copyright Act 1957 has been designed from the perspective of a developing country. It has always attempted a balance between various kinds of interest. It has always sought to ensure that the rights of the authors of creative works is carefully promoted alongside the public interest served by wide availability and usability of that material. The Indian Copyright Act has provisions for compulsory and statutory licensing by recognizing its importance in making works available, especially making them available at an affordable rate. The cover version, recognizing that more players lead to a more vibrant music industry. Widely worded right for a fair dealing of private use, recognizing that the individual use and large-scale commercial misuse are different. This act was amended by the Copyright Amendment Act 2012 passed by Lok Sabha the lower house of parliament on 22nd of May 2012 with the provisions that relate to the protection of digital right management techniques. This made Indian Copyright Act compliant with WCT and the WPPT. Well, digital technologies had not only created new risks for the right holders, but opened up new opportunities for widespread content distribution as well as the methodology of controlling the content. The number of approaches are being deployed to make digital works difficult to copy, distribute, and access. In this module, we have already seen the modeling framework and architecture of these popular technologies known as digital rights management. Thank you.